Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another year of college football. The 2024 college football season is finally here. We've been waiting for a long time. That time has finally arrived. It's week 1 of college football this week. We had a lot of great games coming up. We have 10 ranked versus FCS games, so there's some cupcakes, and we also have some ranked on ranked matchups, some really good games. What we're going to do today is this is a predictions video for our week 1 games. We're going to look at the spreads, money lines, the over-unders, and try to pick the outcome for every single game for our top 25 teams. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will make sure to respond. Like I had mentioned before, there's a couple games that we don't have a spread yet because it's a ranked versus an FCS team. So there's not a spread yet, but the spreads are probably going to be pretty big once those come out. But we do have a lot of other really good games, FBS teams, and ranked on ranked matchups. Let's go ahead and get things started. So kicking things off, the very first matchup we have is a Thursday game, August 29th, 7 p.m. on the ACC network. We have Western Carolina versus number 24, NC State. So NC State is ranked to start the year, and deservedly so. I think they won 9 games last season. Vegas right now is predicting them to come in at 8.5 wins in the 2024 season. This is a really competitive team. They have a physical offense. They have Concepcion there, who's kind of an everything player. And one of the big transfers, they do have Grayson McCall transferring over from Coastal Carolina. So one of the better quarterbacks they've had in recent years. And they always have a solid physical defense. They're playing Western Carolina, who has a pretty good offense, but they also do give up a lot of points. NC State is a heavy favorite here. They're a 33-point favorite. Look for NC State to definitely win this game. They're going to get physical. They're going to run downhill. I have them winning 48-10, and I have them covering that spread. The next matchup we're looking at is also a Thursday game at 8 p.m. We have on the SEC network, Murray State versus Missouri. Now, this is one of those FBS versus FCS teams, so there's not a spread yet, but you definitely see the difference between the two teams. Murray State, looking at the stats, they have one of the worst offenses I've ever seen from last year and a putrid defense, whereas Missouri had a top 20 offense last year as well as a top 30 defense. A very well-rounded team. You have Cook back. You have a very deep wide receiver core. They are breaking in a new defensive coordinator because Bakers is gone, but they have one of the easiest SEC schedules in the entire country, really outside of the Alabama game. They have an easy 10 or 11 win potential this year, and potentially as a sleeper team to make the SEC championship and thus the playoffs as well. I have Missouri winning this game. Obviously, there's not a spread yet, but we know Missouri is going to win it. It's just by how much. I have them winning 52-10 as of right now. The next matchup also on Thursday and at 8, we have Lindenwood versus Kansas. Kansas is coming in here. This is also FBS versus FCS, so there's not a spread just yet that's come out. But Kansas is going to have one of the best offenses in the entire country and probably the best offense in the Big 12. As long as Daniel stays healthy at the quarterback position. Very well-rounded team. They have one of the better quarterbacks in the country. They have a solid defense. They have Neal at running back, who's the top 5, top 3 running back in the entire nation. They're going to run downhill. They run a multiple style of offense. It's just, what is going to be the spread on this game? Because they're definitely going to win it by a lot. Looking at their stats there, this team can score. They're going to be better as long as Daniels plays the entire season. Look for them to win this one. I have them winning this one 58-10. The next matchup, also on Thursday, 9 p.m. on ESPN+. We have Southern Utah versus Utah. This also is an FCS versus FBS matchup. Southern Utah, they have an offense that can score some points, but Utah, Cam Rising's back. That's going to make the world of difference for this team. Kyle Whittingham, one of the most underappreciated coaches in the entire country, the 3rd longest tenured coach in the country. They always have a top 20 defense every season. Great scheme, physical defense, well coached. They're going to shut Southern Utah down, win states rights here. Look for them to win this one 42-6. Cam Rising might be a little rusty coming back. It's been over a year since he's played, but he's going to get better week by week. So that should complete our Thursday matchups. Next game, Friday, August 30th at 7 p.m. on ESPN. We have Temple versus Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma is favored to win this one by 42.5. The over-under 59.5. So they have Oklahoma winning this one pretty convincingly. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic for the Sooners. So obviously, they left the Big 12. They're going to the SEC along with Texas. They have the number 11 overall roster in the entire country, according to ESPN. They are stacked. Brent Venables has been recruiting and working the portal, top 10 in both of them. You have Jackson Arnold coming in as the quarterback. He's going to sling it. He's going to look to build off of where he left in the bowl game last season. Dylan Gabriel has transferred out. This is a very deep team with a very solid, well-recruited, well-built defense. Look for them to win this one easily. Temple's not competitive. They can't score. They give up a lot of points. I have Oklahoma winning this one 48-10. So they're getting a convincing win, but I do not have them covering the spread just because I think Arnold's probably only going to play 3 quarters. The next matchup we're going to be looking at, so that should close out Friday, and then on Saturday, kicking things off Saturday, August 31st, we have Clemson versus Georgia. This is potentially the game of the weekend. This game is going to be at 12 p.m. on ABC. Number 14 Clemson versus number 1 Georgia. Georgia is the favorite here. 13.5-point favorites. The over-under 48.5. This is 2 top 10 defenses. This game could potentially, I could see it starting out really slow, being close for the first half. Very talented rosters, both rosters, top 10 rosters. Obviously for Clemson, you have Dabo Swinney, who refuses to use the transfer portal, but he does recruit at a high level. They have Maffa coming back at running back. They have Klubnik, the 5-star, at quarterback. Riley's offense should be a lot better this year because this is another year in the offense. So they should be a lot more comfortable. They should be able to spread the ball out more. Can they get a vertical threat? That's the biggest question. For Georgia, they lost Bowers. They lost McClunkley, but no one recruits at the level that the Georgia Bulldogs do. Carson Beck is back, 50 yards shy of 4,000 last season. He's going to get 4,000 this year. They're going to be running it. They're going to go vertical. I think Georgia's depth and their offensive weapons is going to assert themselves in the second half of the game. But this is 2 really gifted squads, 2 really good defenses. I have Georgia winning this one 30-17. So I have them just barely not covering that spread, but I wouldn't be surprised if the spread moves down by the time that we get to game time. The next matchup that we're also going to be looking at on Saturday, we have at 12 p.m. on Fox, number 8 Penn State versus West Virginia. Penn State has a top 5 defense returning from last season. I think they finished 3rd in the entire country. A very gifted defense. Obviously, you have Allen coming in as the defensive coordinator. Manny Diaz is off as the head coach of Duke. You have Drew Aller back. You have a very talented running back room, one of the top 3 running back depth rooms in the entire nation. They're going to run downhill. Drew Aller, look for him to be spreading the ball out a lot more. This is a team that's going to be a lot better on offense. You have Andy Konolinski coming over from Kansas as the offense coordinator. He's going to make a world of difference. He does run the multiple offense. This team's going to look completely different. Drew Aller is going to take a lot of steps forward. But West Virginia, do not sleep on West Virginia. They have 3 players who could get 1,000 yards rushing this year, including the quarterback, Garrett Green. Very talented team. This team runs the ball as well as any team in the country. They are in West Virginia, very tough place to play. The stadium's going to be packed. They're going to be loud. But Penn State's defense does travel. Their strength is their D-line. So it's strength on strength. West Virginia running into that defensive line of Penn State. Penn State's favored by 9 here. The over-under 51.5. I have Penn State winning this one 33-20, asserting themselves in the fourth quarter, pulling away fourth quarter touchdown, and I have them covering that spread. The next matchup that we're going to look at 12 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, we have Illinois State versus number 25, Iowa. You have Iowa favored here by 22.5, the over-under 40.5. Iowa's offense is historically pathetic. Last season, they finished 131st out of 132 teams. Kirk Ferentz did fire his son. Iowa's going to have a top 10 defense every single season. No matter how bad the offense is, you can count on a great defense. The offense should be better this season. How better, we don't know. Is it going to go up to 100th? That sounds bad, but it's actually a massive improvement. This is a team with the easy schedule. They could sleepwalk potentially to a 10-2 season and a potential Big Ten championship appearance. Do not sleep on the Hawkeyes. They are favored here, and I do have them winning this one easily. 35-30. I have them covering that spread. I would not be surprised if they shut them out and win 35-0. Next game that we're going to take a look at 12:45 on the SEC Network. Kind of the odd start time at 12:45, but we have Chattanooga versus number 15, Tennessee. Obviously, there's not a spread yet in this game. Tennessee, one of the best teams in the nation that no one's talking about. You have Nico there at quarterback, Josh Heupel, one of the best play callers in the country, Squirrel White. They had a top 20 offense last season, a top 25 defense, a lot of players coming back, and they can run the ball now starting from last year. They can throw it, they can run it, they have Josh Heupel, they have a solid defense. What more can you ask for? Whatever the spread is here, it's probably going to be pretty big, but I have them winning this one 55-10. Next matchup we're going to look at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus, South Dakota State, the team, the Jackrabbits. No one wants to play the Jackrabbits. They could always potentially upset you. Very talented team. They're going to be playing number 17, Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon. They're going to be running downhill. He is the best running back in the nation. The Doak Award winner, 1,700 yards last year, 21 touchdowns. Oklahoma State favored by 10. Over under 53.5. It's kind of a close spread. You think Oklahoma State would be a lot more, but the Jackrabbits are a really competitive team, and Oklahoma State's defense was pretty bad last season. They should be better this season, but at best they can move up to average. But they do have a top 10 offensive line. They have 81% production returning from last season. A very experienced veteran team. I have them winning 30-24, so getting the win, but I don't have them covering the spread. I have this game being very close. Next matchup we're going to look at 3:30 on CBS. We have Akron versus number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes. Some people have the Buckeyes as the number 1 team. Whether they're 1, 2, it doesn't really matter. This is a top 3 team in the nation, a top 3 roster in the nation, probably the best defense in the nation. Some people say it's the best Buckeyes team ever. I don't know about that, but a very talented team, a very talented defense, lots of playmakers there. You added Quinton Junkins coming over. You added Will Howard. You added Chip Kelly as the offense coordinator. One of the greatest play callers ever is the offense coordinator. And obviously you have Ryan Day leading this team. This is a team that's going to be very gifted. We just want to see Will Howard. How far will he push this team over where they were last season at the quarterback position? He's going to be a lot better. He can scramble. He can throw. We just want to see him in Chip Kelly's offense. Will Chip Kelly be able to completely unleash Will Howard's potential? Yes. I just want to see how high his ceiling is in this offense, because if he gets everything out of him, this is going to be a really fun team to watch. Ohio State, the spread here, 49.5. That is massive, over under 59.5. So Vegas has this being a complete beatdown, and it definitely will. I have the Buckeyes winning 57-7. I have them covering that spread, but when your spread's practically 50 points, I would stay away from that. That's just a crazy spread. It's just this defense is so good. Akron should not be able to move the ball on the Buckeyes. Either way, they're obviously going to win this game. The next matchup that we're going to look at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have Colorado State versus number 4 Texas. Texas getting a lot of potential uproar this season. A lot of people looking at them to make the playoffs, make the national championship. Obviously, they made the Final Four last season. They were in the playoffs. They did lose Worthy. Mitchell lost a lot of players on the defensive line, but they recruit as well as anyone, a top 10 roster easily on both sides of the ball. They're favored to win this one, 97.9%. They're obviously going to win it. Vegas has them. The spread here is 32, over under 59.5. That's a pretty big spread. Colorado State's not a bad team. They're a serviceable average team. They can score some points. They don't have a bad offense. They do have a bad defense. Texas is obviously going to win this one. I have them winning it 37-17. I don't have them covering that spread because I think Colorado State's going to get some garbage points in the fourth quarter, but Texas is going to own this game from the jump. The next matchup we're going to look at, one of the most fun matchups this weekend, 3:30 p.m. on ABC, number 19 Miami versus the Florida Gators. Miami comes in this game 3-point favorites, over under 54.5. This game's been flip-flopping back and forth. Florida was favored Miami, Florida, and now it's back to Miami. I could see that spread moving down to virtually a pick. I'm being a 1.5 point spread by the time that it kicks off. But when you look at ESPN, they have Florida favored 57.6%. It's a very evenly matched team. You have Florida, who I think has a number like 13th or 14th rated roster according to ESPN. Miami comes in at number 10. Miami's been working the portal. They've been recruiting top 10 classes all of Cristobal's 3 years there. Top 10 transfer portal classes. You bring in Cameron Ward, the number 1 transfer portal quarterback. You bring in Damon Martinez, the number 1 transfer portal running back. You bring in Brown at wide receiver. You have Restrepo there, who's an All-American. A stacked defensive line. Secondary has some fresh starters there, so I have to watch that. But Florida's also not to be underestimated. You have Graham Mertz coming back, had a great season last year. You have Johnny Wilson Jr. Very decent team. Defense was pretty questionable last season, but they've been working the coaching staff, working the portal there. Billy Napier's feeling the heat. His chair is on fire. If he doesn't make a bowl game this season, he's probably getting fired halfway through the year easily. But you have to start off the season with the win. This game is in the Swamp. It's in Gainesville. But I have Miami winning at 34-24, covering the spread. I could see this game being very close down to the final couple minutes. And I have Miami either getting a final touchdown or a final field goal to make it a 2-possession game and then winning it. The next matchup we're going to look at 7 p.m. on ESPN, Western Kentucky, who can score, versus Alabama, who's number 5. Alabama favored 31.5, over under 59.5. When you have Alabama here versus Western Kentucky spreads the ball around. They run the air raid. They give up some points, but they can match you blow for blow. But obviously, massive talent gap here. Bama, Nick Saban has retired. It's the end of an era. The GOAT is gone. But you have Kalen DeBoer, great coach. He's going to pick off right where Saban left off. He's going to be an offensively minded coach. That benefits Milroe. He has the arm strength. DeBoer loves deep vertical passing. Milroe's probably going to have a Heisman-level season this year. They have a stacked team, top 3 roster in the entire country. ESPN typically has them as the number 1 overall rated roster. So you can just imagine what DeBoer is going to unlock on the offensive side. The defense is still going to be good. There's no reason to be concerned here. This is a team that's going to make the playoffs. Very stacked team. I have them winning this one 45-13, and I have them covering the spread. The next matchup we're going to look at 7 p.m. on ESPN. We have Furman versus Ole Miss, who is the number 6 team in the country. We don't have a spread here yet, but Ole Miss is obviously going to beat the brakes off of them. Lane Kiffin, he's been working the portal, the number 1 transfer portal class. You have Jackson Dart at quarterback. They've been loading up at every single position, especially wide receiver and on defense. Their defense was average last season. They should be above average this season, and they're going to have a top 20, top 15 offense easily. This is a team that potentially could make a run at the playoffs here. This is Ole Miss's season to finally make the playoffs. They threw everything in this offseason. They put all of their chips in, and they're probably going to see some benefits of that. I have Ole Miss winning this one 58-6. The next matchup we're going to look at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus, we have UT Martin versus number 18 Kansas State. We also don't have a spread on this game yet. It's FCS versus FBS. Kansas State, very talented team, deep running back room. You have Avery taking over for Will Howard at quarterback. Very well coached team. Avery is the highest recruited quarterback in Kansas State history. They have a solid defense, really good offense, very physical team, well coached team, and they're disciplined. Kansas State's going to win this one 48-9. Next team we're going to look at 7:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. We have Idaho versus number 3 Oregon. We also don't have a spread yet on this game, unfortunately. but it's going to be massive. It could potentially be a 60-point spread. I don't know what it's going to come in at, but it's going to be outrageous. It's one of those games that you know they're going to win by a lot, but will they win by 60 or 65 points? I don't know. But Oregon, some people have Oregon as the number one roster in the country, the best rounded roster. I don't have a problem with that. They are easily top 5 no matter where you want to put them. You're adding in Dylan Gabriel at the quarterback position. He's going to pick up right where Bo Nix left off. They have weapons out. Running back, wide receiver. They had a top 10 offense last season, a top 10 defense. Look at their stats there. They averaged 42.2 points per game. They gave up 16.5 points a game. This is a deadly team. Dan Lanning has prepared this team for the Big Ten. They are physical at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They're not going to be out-muscled by anyone. They have the weight. They have the talent. They're going to win this one 65-17. The next matchup, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Number 7 Notre Dame versus number 20 Texas A&M Aggies. A ranked-on-ranked matchup here. You have the Aggies favored by 3, the over-under 46.5. This is an interesting game. Obviously, the Aggies fired Jimbo Fisher. They brought in Mike Elko, great coach, physical, disciplined coach. They have a top 10 roster. Fisher recruited well. Elko's going to get the most potential out of the talent on this roster. You have Connor Wegman back at quarterback, great quarterback for Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, he's been recruiting well. He's been working the portal. He's bringing in Riley Leonard as the quarterback from Duke. As long as his ankle's healthy, he's going to put up some numbers. But he was also, coincidentally, Mike Elko's quarterback at Duke. Mike Elko is very familiar with Riley Leonard and his weaknesses and strengths, and vice versa. Leonard knows Mike Elko well. So it's kind of interesting which one's going to have the upper hand here. We don't know, but what we do know is the Aggies have a great defense. They are at home, College Station, but Notre Dame had a top 10 defense last season. They're bringing that back, and we know defense travels. So it's defense on defense. Who's going to win? Riley Leonard, I don't think he's the greatest quarterback, but he can definitely scramble. He can throw. This is the best Notre Dame wide receiver core we've seen recently. The Aggies are favored. They deserve to be favored. They're at home. They have the talent. But I'm going to go here with the upset. I have Notre Dame winning this one 27-21. It's going to be close no matter who wins. And obviously, I do not have the Aggies covering. Next matchup we are looking at 7:30 on NBC. Fresno State versus Michigan. Michigan's number 9. A lot of off-the-field stuff going on. You have Sharon Moore here taking over as the head coach. Harbaugh's off to the NFL. They only have one player coming back on offense. We know they're going to have a solid top 15 defense easily. Very well-recruited, well-developed team. Donovan Edwards, he's going to run for a lot of yards. A couple touchdowns this game potentially. But Michigan, very disciplined team. They're going to run downhill and out-physical Fresno State. Fresno State's not a bad team at all. I think they won 9 games last season. They can score. They can move the ball. But obviously, massive talent gap here. Michigan favored by 21.5, over under 45.5. I have Michigan winning this one 35-14. As of right now, I don't have them covering the spread, but I think that spread will potentially come down, and thus they'd cover it. The next matchup we're going to look at, we have at 10:30 p.m. on ESPN, New Mexico, who's 0-1 versus number 21, Arizona. Arizona 31-point favorites here, over under 58.5. New Mexico lost last weekend in week 0. Arizona, Fish, the head coach, he's obviously gone. He's off to Washington. They're bringing in a new head coach from San Diego State. This is a well-developed team. You have Fafita there at the quarterback position. You have a very stacked wide receiver room. They actually had a top 30 defense last season. They had a top 20 offense. As I mentioned, Brent Brennan there. He's the new head coach. Fafita, McMillan, it's a perfect matchup. They can run it. They can throw it. They can score some points. This is our first time seeing them under new leadership, but I have Arizona winning this one 44-10, and I have them covering that spread. The next matchup, one of the best matchups of the weekend, one of the most exciting matchups this weekend, at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday on ABC, number 23 USC Trojans versus number 13 LSU Tigers. This game is in Las Vegas. It's going to be a fun matchup. You have two teams that are in very similar positions. You have LSU favored by 4.5, over under 64.5. This game's going to be a shootout probably. Lincoln Riley, defense was a complete joke last season, but he hired Lynn as the defense coordinator. That's going to make the world of difference. It's just how quickly will he be able to flip this defense, get them back in line. You still have Miller Moss there at quarterback. You have Branch. Lincoln Riley's going to score points no matter who you're playing. For LSU, Brian Kelly changed the defensive coordinators just like the Trojans. They had a great offense last season. Obviously, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, but their defense was a complete joke as well. He's hired Blake Baker over from Missouri, but how quickly can he flip their defense? So this game is going to come down to whose defense has the advantage starting out. Obviously, LSU probably has the better defensive roster, but that didn't help them last season. So Baker has the advantage there, though, and his roster's a little better on the defensive side. LSU does have a top 10 roster as of right now. Nussmeier takes over for Daniels, but Daniels won the Heisman last year, so that's big shoes to have to fill. Denbrock, who was the offensive coordinator, he's gone. He's off to Notre Dame now. This game's going to be a shootout, though. Two teams who averaged over 40 points per game last season, but two teams who gave up a lot of points. I have LSU winning this one 35-30, covering the spread. If USC won this game, though, I would not be surprised in any way. It's going to be a shootout. Final matchup we have, this is a Monday game, Monday, September 2nd, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Boston College versus number 10, Florida State, who's 0-1. When the new polls come out, Florida State's obviously going to drop because they just lost to Georgia Tech. Florida State has to make up for that pathetic performance in Dublin. DJU, he must play better. People are calling for his job. Deservedly so. He played bad, but the season is early. Give him some time. This is a rebound game for him. Bill O'Brien is the new head coach for Boston College, so we know that their offense is going to be better. He is a good play caller, a good developer at the quarterback position. You have Castellanos there. He can throw, run it. Florida State has a massive talent advantage. Look for them to circle the wagons. They're going to rally their team. They're going to play really good this game. Florida State favored by 16, over under 50.5. I have Florida State winning this one 38-20, getting back in the win column and covering the spread. So that's the breakdown of our week one games. There's a lot of good ones. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, any opinions, drop them below, and I'll make sure to respond. Thank you.